this meeting, this work session to order. Today is the 7th of July, and our first order of business is to swear in our recently elected members. Superintendent Hawkins, would you do the honors?
Actually, Chief Blue will be doing the honors today,
Okay.
being the only present member, so, yes.
Does he look excited?
I gotta do 2 more of these tomorrow. For the police department.
So you're practicing tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done some of these. Trust me. Somebody else would be more than happy to. More than happy to send this to somebody else if I could. All righty. Well, go ahead and raise your right hand. Repeat after me. Want to stand if you can? I'm good. Okay. I state your name.
I, Dustin Mark Carson,
You solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States of America
of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Oregon
and the Constitution of the State of Oregon
and the laws thereof,
and the laws thereof,
and will faithfully and honorably
and will faithfully and honorably
demean myself in the office
demean myself in the office
of the Director of the Nissa School District Number 26, state your position.
in the office of the Director of the School District, position number 547,
To which I have been elected
to which I have been elected
to the best of my ability, so help me God.
to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Excellent. Welcome aboard. Once again, for some time, Mr. Hartley, welcome aboard.
Thank you. And welcome, Nick. Welcome all of us who've been re-elected.
Yes.
I guess you would say welcome. So the next item on the agenda will be the adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes or amendments to the agenda? On item 5, I would like to ask that with the OSBA board training and other incidental items. Okay. Is there, do I have to have a motion on that to make that amendment?
Yes. She said yes.
well, you have to make it, and then they say.
Okay.
You don't have to with it.
Do I hear a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to adopt it with the changes stated.
Do I hear a second? It's been moved by Susie and seconded by Jasmine to adopt the agenda with the changes made to item number 5. All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Okay. We'll move on to the business policy BCB.
Perfect, so you will see in your package, you have our current policy BCB for board officers. And upon reviewing this policy, we noticed a discrepancy between what we have in our policy and what the ORS says. And you'll see that Megan actually has, in red there, striped out what ours is, and then the one underlined is what ORS says. So essentially, it says that the board will elect one of its members to serve as chair and one to serve as vice chair. No member of the board may serve as chair more than, and right now ours says 2 years in succession. As we know that in the next board meeting, we have to elect a new chair and vice chair. So currently right now, it does not meet, or it does not, the language does not look like the ORS. The ORS says 4, and so the proposal will be to change that to look more like the ORS, and the ORS is on the back page.
May I make also a suggestion? In our policy, it says at the first scheduled meeting, and in the ORS, it says at the first regularly scheduled meeting following July 1st. We have the word regular.
Regularly after first.
At the first scheduled regular meeting, I guess, would be.
Just as first thing on the policy, right?
Yes.
In the laws.
Yeah, it's-
Just said regular meeting. So basically, they're saying don't schedule a special meeting for that, right?
Yeah, just the regular.
And may I make a suggestion again? Under executive secretary, under the duties, I would like for us to think about adding an item that the executive secretary will assist the superintendent and the board in developing, and board chair in developing or establishing the agenda for the meeting, and also to assist the superintendent and board chair in remembering those dates, those timelines that we need to, need to meet in order to be legal with with state requirements. And you can phrase it however you want, but I think you get the idea.
Can I make a suggestion, and that's kind of a job description and not a something that's a good policy?
Something that I directed in there,
Megan does that.
Mhm.
so, yeah.
And does already say prepare and distribute minutes in advance, so that would be that system.
Yeah, Pat, I do think you are covered there in that first paragraph. Says
Okay.
that they will compile minutes and perform related work as assigned by the superintendent or requested by the board chair. So
Okay.
I think that's a pretty good catch-all if the superintendent or board chair need help on something.
That catches
I'll do it.
everything
I
then.
think so.
Okay. So this will be the first reading?
You would have to vote on it tonight if
Yeah.
you wanted it to go
Or
into
shall we-
effect before you do elections on Monday.
Yeah, we have to line
Okay,
tonight.
so
Yeah.
we'll adopt, we'll make a motion to adopt it this evening.
I move to adopt policy BCB with the amendment that the board chair may serve, no member of the board may serve as chair more than 4 years in succession. And then also in the first line, that it read at its first regular meeting following July 1.
I'll second that.
It's been moved by Dustin and seconded by Susie to adopt policy BCB with the changes that have been stated. Do I hear, let's see, I will therefore call for a vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries.
So then next meeting after we kind of open it, we do pledge allegiance, we'll have to go through, do elections for board chair and vice chair.
Yes, so. Okay, there's nothing else on that policy. We'll move on to item number 2 under the business, the SRO.
Excellent, so, as the board is aware, Corporal Rodriguez has retired from the police force as the SRO, and we're bringing him back as the Student Safety Prevention Specialist, SSPS, as we call it, which is a position that is mirroring, they have one in Ontario that Mike did that does, and then the EST has one as well. And so that this actually would mirror that, and what it would actually do is move from, that officer to more of a student safety and prevention and not being that role, but still having a role to facilitate learning in classrooms, supporting families. And so as you can see, the essential job duties and responsibilities, I think is in the packet there. You'll see kind of what we really outlined, what we're going to have Corporal Rodriguez do next year. Now, so part of this is moving that position to being a school district position and being that SSPS. It obviously is it's replacing the SRO, which obviously causes another domino. And I wanted to discuss it with the board. Is so what we use that money is that we had SRO, we're now using for the SSPS. And so I'd like to just open it up for any discussions or questions you have on that, and possibly some direction from, if you have some comments from the community or anything of that nature, just to kind of open it up. I guess that would be the way to say it.
How will his roles change from what it was before to what it will be?
So-
What are some of the-
So as you know, obviously being an officer changes some things that you can do, and it obviously will limit the things that he can't do, like he will no longer be able to cite. I mean, he's not an officer of the law at that point, and so it does change how he's going to be working with families. So when we really look at him being part of that student safety prevention specialist, he's going to be an integral member of our level 2 assessment, which level 2 is Moore County, and being a part of that, helping oversee the threat assessment, having going on when we think of prevention. His job is to actively go out and work with that in the schools. We are looking at being creative at possibly even giving my class to teach one before, just because the nature of the job is that you can't give him a regularly scheduled class. And so, he just becomes a different resource for the district. And again, right, it is a give and take on those things. The same, like citing, right, is if there's attendance citations, you have to get a hold of the police department, and you'd have to be accompanied out there actually.
Just to deliver
Yeah,
attendance.
yeah, he could not cite, he's not an officer of the police department at that point, so.
Did you check into an open carry?
So so we looked at that, and so there's two things in the ORS about open carry. We don't have anything in policy with that. The only thing with weapons, concealed weapons, fall within the student realm of the policy, your GA section, and so there's nothing in personnel or anything with it. So what we did was we looked at the ORS, and Justin will like this one, so ORS. It's ORS 166.370, talks about possession of firearm or dangerous weapon in public building or court facility. And looking at, like, can you do that? And then in there in subsection 3E, it says that you can carry, it doesn't say open, it says concealed weapons at that point. So in the current capacity, he could, if he's properly licensed, and he actually falls within these designated people like being a deputy or things like that. And for an open carry, I've been talking to Dallas Waldo about if you're doing open carry as a personnel and you're telling him to open carry, he'd have to get different certification to be more of a security officer, which is not the intent of the position. And so that would be, so that's part of that conversation of like having the board, what we really see. And
So, as his current duty, I mean, I see from the outside, like, some of what he does is like security guard in some way of like, I'm preventing problems, I'm securing the premises, I'm protecting the students. So, to me, like, that does fall into his role, what he currently is. I think most of the community would say, we want that as his future role. So
his presence does that, right? And it's, I mean, just being there and that resource alone, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to bring him back, because of, I mean, 30 years of helping school, helping those things. to instill, but not saying that like, hey, there's an unruly kid down here, you need to come, like he does now, right? There's a kid who's causing disruption, that, hey, have, Corporal Rodriguez come, be an announcer, that's not appropriate for the position. And so, so that would be, we would be using that.
So we would have to call the police department. and have
If it
them-
warrants something of that nature.
I don't know, I just think people seeing him with an open carry at a game or at a function would be a deterrent to some behaviors.
Yeah, and that would be something that, like games and those things, that obviously with the police department, they would always probably have somebody on premises or around for it. And so, that wouldn't be going.
So what is the certification he has to do to open carry?
It's a special security designation. You have to, after,
You have to go through certifications, your DPSST, your armed
Yes.
security guard.
And
The
then
same
it's
thing if you're an unarmed
expensive,
security
does it
guard, you
take a
have
long
to go
time?
through certification as well.
yeah, if you are security, and that's your main function, and that's not what we're doing.
I mean, I hear you saying that,
Yeah.
that's not the job title, but I think what I'm hearing from the community is we still want that level of protection.
I want it.
I want
do
it.
too. If, God forbid, a shooter would come in the elementary and Robert's gonna say, stop, I don't have a gun, stop.
And he has a gun, right? Like, he can have a gun.
That's
But-
what stuff to keep track with. Good.
I don't know, I just,
He can have a gun, correct?
He can have a concealed weapon if he's licensed to do so, and he
But
falls
is he
within
licensed to do
those
so?
things he is.
yes, he has
Yes.
concealed weapons, but and so does a lot of staff
That
members.
looks like staff as well, yes.
So we can carry,
But
but
they probably will be.
when it comes to like, hey, that kid is disruptive and he's beating up teachers, like,
Just like any other staff member, like admin, or, I'm there, I get called right away. I get called
Right.
more of those things than he does currently as an SRO. And so, I mean, there wouldn't be a lot of difference in that. So rarely do we have a point, and I mean, yes, we do have some unruly parents every now and then, most of them do, when we go down there and talk to them, we need to leave the premises, so we'll have to call the SRO. Rarely does he have to come really escort people off the grounds.
I mean, I guess my question is it unrealistic to require him to take this security training? Like, is that
It's not, and he's open to it.
Because I think
Is it
that's,
expensive and does it take a long time or?
those are the questions I have. Like,
It's not, and honestly, if you are having somebody do that, and you were saying we're requiring as a public employee to open carry, and he has to get that certification the chief was talking about, it changes our insurance as well, we'll have to pay, because we are essentially having to be certified to open carry, our insurance liabilities as well.
Maybe some issue, maybe you can answer that, that's not good. They also not look at probably have a policy for a security program.
Is there always gonna be somebody Monday through Friday available from the police department? I know, I'm just asking.
The problem is what you have now is you have an SRO who's available strictly for you. So when you have a call for service, he shows up. And in some cases, he is absent, maybe takes time off, he's not, whatever. It's rare, but when it does happen, then one of us will fill in where we can. The problem is that when you take that out of the equation, you're dealing with what the officer can regularly respond to during that day. And let's be real, the weekday is probably our busiest time for calls for service because everybody's out and about, that's what everybody's doing. Even at night, it slows down. Overall, you might get other types of criminal activity. You're gonna have a lot of other things come up. You got your ordinances, you've got other things that are happening within the city that takes that kind of thing. And most often, I'm the one covering shifts Tuesday through Friday. Unless we have a day for school. So then you gotta deal with me doing my part of the job as well.
Well, if you're not on another call.
Yeah, if I'm not on another call or if I'm not doing other duties I have as a chief. So there's that, right? Then it becomes a priority. Emergencies, yeah, it's gonna take a priority over. So if you have an emergency call happening here, it's gonna be a priority over other things that might be happening, like a dog call, right? And so that priority would be emergency. But again, you're gonna fall within the loop of priority.
Did Dallas give you any idea what the increased insurance will be for security guard?
We were working on kind of what that meant, what it looked like, and so he was working the pace on it, so we don't know. And we have to look at it, there's not, maybe one 2 times a month when we sit there and say, like, there's some harassment things that we want to follow up on, parents and those things. We'll really say, like, we need an officer here. This is not a small district. It does really well. We use him a lot just as, say, hey, can you come and just help? But it's not emergency situations where we're looking at having those responses immediately. There are some medical things that he does come down to assist with, but other than that, there's just not a lot currently.
Yeah, and I mean, my opinion is, like, we live in a community where 3/4 of the people own guns, maybe more. If there was an accident, a thing that happened in the school that was catastrophic, it would involve someone using a gun. Like that is the reality of the community that we live in. So, I mean, I think we would be silly to not take every precaution that we can to make sure our kids are safe. If that, I mean, I think that's pretty high priority.
You wouldn't have pepper spray or taser or anything, right?
I don't need to discuss those things. I mean, that could be something that he could do, but I think it's a different sort of, it's other certification as well, where you just, it's not just for concealed weapon, pepper spray and taser actually fall under that as well, so.
I think concealed weapon's a good option for stopping a threat, but the open carry is good for deterring the threat in the first place. And that's where I'd rather do it on the deterrence end.
Now, there's the other piece to add to that. It's kind of like you talk about the deterrence piece, and that's where the law enforcement side, one of the biggest parts of our job in law enforcement is deterrence. Not the fact that we're going to have the potential of being in a certain place maybe at the right time and catch somebody doing something. It's the fact that you just know that there's an officer out there. The other piece, in dealing with all the years I've done this line of work, even when you have an officer or you have a person who used to be an officer who's now plain clothes, even an officer who's no longer in plain clothes, I've experienced this myself in the job, you're going to have a different reaction when you have somebody in uniform and somebody not. And you have somebody in uniform tends to become more of a deterrent, it's become more of a compliance piece. Whereas you're going to put a guy there with a gun on the side of a uniform, you may create a slew of other issues. You might create people saying stuff about it. You might create, people that are going to challenge that. You might want to really look into the security piece because I know there's been businesses that quite a bit in the past that run security, like especially bigger cities like Portland, where most of the security officers are told not to engage in a lot of that, more of Missouri, because of the liability and the things that can go on with physically going hands-on. Sure. So when you talk about switching of roles, you're talking about there's more going on than just him responding to a couple of calls. You're losing the presence.
And that's what I'm saying. The intent is not to have a security guard. That is not the intent at all. To be that person, like checking people coming in with their hands. That is not it. It is to be an educational resource and help we be more consistent in our classrooms and our programs. And so that is the intent of it. Will he be a resource if there's things that happen because of who he is? Absolutely. But that's not his main function of his job.
How does Ontario, or how do Ontario and Vail handle it?
So Ontario has both, right? They're big enough where they do have both on there.
Ontario has Mike Padilla.
Mike Padilla, who is, that's
And
what.
they're also two SROs.
Yeah, so,
So they have 3.
yeah, so they have both models like that, so.
I don't know, it kind of scares me not to have anybody.
And I would say, this way it's more consistent on the school grounds and it is more a resource for our schools.
I hear the resource side of this, and I can see using it for whatever purposes, teaching, great. But I would guarantee you that the community would say, I care less about the teaching side and more about the security side.
Yeah.
I'm just,
No, and like I said, I do think, the security guys and those things is that we would get a more consistent presence and be more of a resource for our buildings this way.
I just wonder if there's a way to do a little bit of both, the same position.
And then that's kind of the other part of it is if you guys feel that that's something the community wants to continue to fund, obviously we have to check things with, budgets and those things, and we look to do that. And, and I've been in talks with the police department as well about what that looked like in the past, and then maintaining that level with the board to do that. So, we do have some numbers that we got, and so, but anyway, that's why we're bringing up the conversation, right? Your guys' job is to say, hey, our community wants this. Let's find a way to do it. That, and stopping some other programs to continue this one, which is totally okay.
Yeah, that's some of the concerns are really, good people bring up here, but, it's like, we have to think about Portland and all the rest of it. A little while back, we were, on defunding and dumping SROs, and they weren't wrong. Because even their community is looking at it. So, and it makes sense that, especially, start with as well as you guys talking about, being concerned about the safety, and there should be more, at least, I agree. The program with this, the plan with Roberts is great. I like it. I like the resource in there. It's something I wanted with the SRO again when we talked about this last year. Especially being an SRO myself at one time. That resource is good, but I think you're correct. You're going to create another huge issue if you don't have that presence. At least in my opinion. And I don't know that it's Strauss or security can solve that for them. So,
Are there any other questions, comments?
So are we gonna have to vote on this Monday, or?
I like to just kind of collect thoughts and questions on those things. It's not, it's a vote. It's not really a vote. It's, I'll get your feedback on that. If it's kind of overwhelming, is what we want to look at, then Crystal and I will start meeting on numbers. I'll keep working with the city on what that would look like and give you guys, like, here's what that would mean. So there, I want all your questions first and see if is this a direction that we want to go with. And again, right, there's a give and take situation with those things. Like, this may replace a teacher, which is fine. Like, it's not just, we don't have free money sitting out there. There has to be a take somewhere. And so that, I just want to, let the board know that totally good. If this is what is most important to us, then we will direct our resources and means to fulfill what we say the community and what is necessary. So think about it. This is kind of what sprung on there, so that's what we want to think of. That's what we wanted the conversation, but I want to make sure that, like, we do understand we are creating a big hole there, not only for the city, but for the school district with not having an armed person. Just that car parked out here does mean something, right?
yeah.
What's his car gonna say, security officer?
So he's going to be driving the Yukon, and so that's what he'll be able to do all his home visits and those things.
So it's not gonna say security?
No, it's not. So so it's Paul will say SSPS or Street Safety
Don't have a
Prevention
choice.
Specialist. So, but yes, and so like I said, with everything, there's a positive, negative, give and take on that. And so anyway, we wanted to bring it up to you guys to let you know and see what your thoughts are, and talking to the community, see what their thoughts are, and then let's bring all that stuff together. It'd be obviously something that if we decide to go forward, right? It's not just a hey, hire somebody tomorrow situation, or how would that look? There would be some other things we have to do. So I'll keep kind of, if you guys can put some thoughts out there and maybe email me like some questions, and then we can keep going forward.
Can we get the current SRO contract emailed to us?
Yeah, and that would be something that we would look at, right? There's two different functions of that contract right now. It's that 1.0, right? Back it was 23, right? 23, 24, where we have the old one.
For last year. For last year's school cycle.
Yeah, and so we have that one as well that looks like instead of that 1.0, we would be paying just the school year.
Yeah, and where we build the city, or sorry, the school.
Yeah.
So it was built for whatever time.
So I'll get you what the contract looks like, and then I'll get you the number as well, so you can kind of see the difference.
Perfect.
So,
Just a quick question, I kind of remember this answer, but I know you're talking about, we've been talking about this, can't get an idea, but obviously you're looking at implementing this, when do you plan on implementing this program?
So the SSPS or looking at the SRO?
The SPS, I mean, obviously SRO.
Oh, the SSPS, well, that's in August, and yeah, that's when things start with kind of teachers coming back, and his position is like a teacher's contract.
I have one more question too.
Yeah.
So they'll teach a class, maybe first period in the high school. The rest of the day, he's just gonna kind of walk around and,
So, yeah, as you can kind of see through his job description, there's a lot on there we're doing. I mean, it's still, most of his functions that he does now, about 90% or more, that he actually will be operating under. He just has different leeway to do some other things, so.
I will tell you, threat assessments alone will fill up a lot
Yeah.
of his time.
Yep. That's a big one that we need, that threat assessment's not only level 1, but level 2. That we need from there.
Threat assessment piece is a big part.
Yeah. And it's, when you do a threat assessment, I mean, it takes hours because there's interviews, I mean, it is a lot. With that, like, I mean, him working with those families to help them get resources to do them 6 minutes, so it really changes him as a resource around the school with parents as well, so.
Does anybody not know what the threat assessment piece is?
excuse me?
Even if anybody not know what the threat assessment piece is.
Well, just maybe you could explain, I mean, I think I understand.
I mean, the piece that I deal with more than anything is a lot of times you get, and I probably won't do it, but you're not going to talk about that. The piece of it is like, for instance, I'll just give an example, it's probably easier to talk about. If we have a kid that might be showing some kind of aggression signs or problems, or maybe they've said something about bringing a gun to school, for instance, we've had that happen. Then what happens is obviously the school moves to make sure the school stays safe. Law enforcement and a team will meet together and decide, involved with libraries and some other folks, and to decide and put this kid through a program to decide where they're at on their threat level. Whether they can enter back in the school, what it's going to take to help them enter back in the school, if that's going to be a thing. Maybe there's some stuff I'm missing out. I know from law enforcement side, that's what we're looking at, the big safety piece, but
Yeah, and that's where you look at level 1, 2, and 3, right? Is your level 1s, is you sit there and say, is this actually a critical threat? That's where we have the police department come in, where like, they will have to actually, you know, because where we're at, sometimes it's state, sometimes it's county, right? They have to go out and say, are there weapons in the home? Is this an actual credible threat, or what's going on with it? And then, so that's where level 1 lays, but again, there's a lot of internal stuff. Then we say, this is actually a larger threat than that. We go level 2, where we involve state level people, so more of the resources in our community, and so that's level 2, and we have to come up with a safety plan, and so that's level 2. And if we deem at all like level 3, that's like, I mean, the kid, we need to find some immediate things to make sure that he's safe and other people are safe and other people are safe as well.
we're trying to meet the preventative nature before
Yeah.
it turns into something trying to catch it off.
But there are a lot of, I mean, when a kid just is, frustrated, like, oh, I'm gonna kill you, when they're frustrated, the kid, right? Where before, like, no, now we go through a level 1 threat assessment, anything like that, because we don't take a chance. We have a process, we have a team, and they're followed up with. And so it's not anymore, it's not just, oh, just kids saying they're angry. We take every single one of those serious. And sometimes we hear by parents, they didn't mean anything by it. Yep, that's fine. And that's exactly what we're gonna find out and do it. And then, well, this is blown out of proportions, like, on any sort of threat, we take it very seriously. So, anyway, so he's gonna be a huge part of that team, and be able to follow more and do good things with that.
Any other questions?
We kind of were wrong.
So, I'm hearing there's the SRO that could be brought back or terminated, that side of it. I'm new to this, so I don't know all the language.
That's okay.
Or we do the SSPS, where it's basically a teacher and kind of does some of the things we've talked about.
Yeah, some of the district level safety things and be a part of the safety committee.
Is there an option where we just look at some of the costs of like security training and insurance like liability stuff? Is there a version of that we could still look at as well? Okay, maybe that's something that we could bring is like the cost of the training, the duration of the training, the liability cost.
So there are a bunch of different options that I have kind of ready to go. one of the hybrid is like saying, just SSPS. SSPS SRO, right? SSPS is more of the security, looking at that open carry thing. Then the other one is SRO and no SSPS.
Right.
And so, that's gonna be an option that you guys get as well. Which is an option that obviously, my preference would be option number one, would be that hybrid in some capacity. But that is a decision that they can make. This is what the community wants, so.
Tommy, where would you have to go to get that training? Is it like a far
I don't
away?
know all about how they do it. My understanding, is doing some of that, at least back when they kind of started implementing this thing, was more of an online piece, some class. If there's a firearm involved, I'm assuming there's going to be some firearms training. That even though he's an officer, he's still going to have to go through some firearms training. Because being a security officer is kind of a different piece than being a police officer. And so I'm assuming at some point he's going to have to take some training that's going to involve that. The other piece to remember is we're referring back to the ORS, being a retired law enforcement officer. That means, doesn't necessarily mean just because he's retired that he gets to be having a concealed carry piece. He still has to go through the police department in which he's in the area. And that CEO of the police department has to sign off on a located carry, which means technically by the policies and stuff he's supposed to go out and qualify. Under the law enforcement act.
So, Ryan, do you think you can have this information to us in a week?
Oh, easily. Really, the only piece I'm missing, because I have all the information kind of gathered in preparation, is that insurance piece that kind of does the revenue. And so that would be.
Okay, and you can break it down the way Nick asked, so that we can see all those pieces.
Yeah.
And you've got some of that for you said the security side, right? You've done some of that.
Yeah, yep.
Have you talked to some of the other places, like the hospital, for instance, stuff that has security?
We haven't until, yeah. So
They
that
have
would be something
policies and
to
stuff.
look at.
Does the hospital security carry, open carry?
I don't think so.
And we, like I said, as a school district, we have no policy. We've, ever since I've been here, have elected to not adopt a policy about kind of carry concealed weapons or open carry as well. So that would be something we would look into. But again, we've always elected to just, so I guess that would be like,
Most of the places you don't see armed security because of a huge liability limit.
yeah.
Can you check with OSBA and see if they have
Yes.
an open carry policy? And hopefully we'll have it all in a week, so.
Oh,
we can-
easily, yeah. I should have it with here in a couple days. So,
Okay.
and there'll be things that if you have anything in there, email me right away. Hey, this is information we need, because the faster I get you guys information, the faster we can have questions. Because obviously, if there needs to be a change, we need to move somewhere. So, with the city, Fort Rodriguez, and those things. So, I think Fort Rodriguez has 26 we've done, what's that?
What's that?
We've done this month, right?
Yeah, it'll be whatever the Friday is of that month. What's that? It's like 26, 27.
Yeah, so.
I think 29th is his anniversary, or 28th, something like that,
Yeah.
his anniversary. But it's on a weekend, so it's whatever that Friday is.
The 25th.
What's that?
The 25th is Friday.
Yeah.
Which
That's
is
something, right?
pretty amazing. I mean, that,
Well, I think the 27th probably is what it'll be.
another one of those people who serve our schools in the community for 32, 33 years.
Well, 30 is higher.
Yeah.
He's got a few years in reserve time, probably not.
Yeah. So, pretty amazing. So that's something to celebrate. Yep.
Okay, if there are no other questions, you'll have all that information for us. We'll now move on to item 3, annual requirements.
So on the agenda next Monday, you'll see you have on the consent agenda on C7 subset. C is the designations and requirements for the 25-26 school year, and you can see these are just the designations we have to go through and vote on every year. Custodians of the funds, who's authorized to sign off on the accounts. Legal counsel right now, it's still Mike Horton. I am in process. I'd like to go with an RFP to look at some other possible legal counsel on that. And so just a heads up, but right now, legal counsel is the same, agent, Waldo Insurance Board meeting. Number 7, and that's kind of that piece of number 5, but since it's in here, I'd like to discuss number 7 on that. As you can see, is second Monday of the month at 7 p.m. Is that something that the board wants to continue to do, or does 6 o'clock work better for everybody? That, I mean, I know people work, and it gets, I know for Ms. Warrenson, Mr. Harley, those things, is it maybe 6 o'clock is pushing it a little too close, but it's kind of this one thing, right? There's a weird gap in there, like for, you know, Matt, who has to, like, not really, I can't really go home, but I gotta be here anyway, might as well get done at 6, rather than wait till 7, so I don't know, that's something that I'd like to, I don't know, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
As far as moving to 6, all
Yeah, all the way through the whole year.
Well, we've done that with the city council, we've done the 6. Well, as a person, 6 worked out pretty good, but then I work there, so it's a little easier for me.
Yeah.
But for me, here, it just depends. Now, granted, we're on Monday, which is nice. I don't generally go into work on Monday, so it works for me. But if I was Tuesday or Friday, if I had to go to work Monday, sometimes I'll be out 5 or 6. So
Does it make sense to do 6 o'clock, but double up and have these work sessions on the same Monday? Have a little bit longer meeting, but only one Monday instead of 2 Mondays a month?
You know, we had tried to do that before, and the problem was we started having these marathon meetings because the work session lasted so long. The thing I personally like about having the work session the week before is that I'm able to take that information and get additional feedback if I need it. So, and also it gives us a chance to say to the superintendent, we want some more information regarding insurance or whatever. So, you know, I actually prefer having the 2 separate meetings. I'd also talk to some other board chairs, and they also have a work session and then a separate business meeting. So,
It's up to you guys that work outside of the home.
yeah, as far as the 6 o'clock thing.
Yeah.
I think 6 works for me. I can make whatever work usually, but
We're throwing this out.
6
to your
usually
first
works for me. 7 almost always works for me. So that's,
And I don't know about that.
so I mean, I'm fine with it, but I mean, I need to say 6 usually works. 7.
We don't have to change it, it's just an idea, right? And
It's,
so that's, I mean,
it's something that we need to talk about.
Yeah.
Because it's,
City council did it all the time, right? Donnie?
what's that?
City council's at 6 all the time now?
Yeah.
and we should also take into account our staff who come to our regular meetings. So I don't know how many of them, you know, try to go home at 4:30 and
yeah.
come back in time for our meeting or what. So that's another thing we should think about.
And it is kind of that go-between, right, 6 one way, half a dozen other, right, as, you know, like as far as staff, they can be with their families before, or, you know, and then maybe miss it on the tail end, or they get it done so they get to have a little more time at the tail end to their families. And so, it's, like I said, 6 one way, half a dozen another. So,
Well, unfortunately, if I tell somebody it's not that like it, that's not gonna work for me.
I do see that sometimes, I mean, there's been events that are occurring here that we can't because we have board meetings right in the middle of the event, and if we do run 6, then we actually probably could attend that event afterwards, games and those things, and so that would give us the ability to do that, which is good. I'm gonna, just to let you know, I mean, obviously, you know, I think kind of sounds like 6 is, pretty people are okay with it, they're not, you know, and so I'm gonna put that on the agenda, so. Sound good?
And everyone is all right with the second Monday of the month being our regular business meeting?
Yeah, that's what it's been.
The other one, Umpqua Bank, is still our depositor, it's based with our bank. Is something changing soon?
I believe they'll be changing their name soon, but
How do
but
you-
as of right now, and.
As of right now,
they're
this is,
Is that bank?
this is currently where everything's at.
Saying that they changed their name.
So,
Have they officially changed it?
yeah.
So why?
I bank with them and they haven't told me.
I do too, and I don't know.
Check your email, Susie.
Anyway, so,
Right now, they're on clock.
any questions on those annual requirements that we have to go through? You guys have?
Okay.
Perfect.
And you are gonna, look into some other, for number 5, some other people.
Yes. Yep, I'm gonna put out an RFP and go through that whole process. And again, it doesn't mean that we're gonna be changing, it means that, you know, we're going to say, you know, what best serves the district. Yeah, and,
What's going on for number 5 piece?
oh no, that's number 5 on this, is legal
Oh, never
counsel.
mind, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, the legal counsel.
Oh, okay, well.
No, that, just to say, is, and especially, you know, as kind of the amp up more with, there's more legal things, especially in the educational world, is that having somebody that does specifically work with more education might be a benefit of the district, but again, right, prices are like this, and why would we kind of change? And so, even though we will always, you know, we're gonna use them for various, you know, educational legal things, Hungerford, we use kind of on a as-needed basis. There's some other ones, but having just one general counsel that we go to for everything education would be really good.
And you have spoken to Mr. Horton.
Yes, yeah, I talked to him. He was one of the first people I talked to just because I, you know, we're not saying you're horrible, we're going to say we're looking at the interest of the district and what would be the best. So he understood.
Okay. Any other questions on that? And you're going to start out the RFP as quickly as possible.
Yes, as quickly as possible. So, and we've already, you know, like we have some of the ones we've worked with that we know that we're going to be home today. You know, so we want to get as much information as possible rather than like, well, it was out there in the paper and nobody said anything. I mean, we want to reach out, and if there's, you know, who does Ontario use, who does our other local people use, and so, you know, so we'll be on the lookout.
And just to keep in mind, the prices are going to vary. So,
And yeah, exactly, and services are going to vary. So,
Motors are.
that looks great.
yeah.
Sorry. It's,
Okay, there are no other questions on that. We will now move on to item 4, the budget committee vacancies. We have 2 open positions.
So, I can't believe I'm already talking about another budget, but at the end of June 30th, 2 of our budget committee members, their term expired. So we have 2 openings, and we had revised our policy a couple years ago about the budget committee, and so we need to get applications posted and advertised. And I just need the board to discuss a date of when those applications should be due to the district office. In our new policy or a revised policy, it states the board will appoint in the September meeting. So I spoke with Megan and Ryan, and our recommendation would be to advertise those applications and have them due to the district office on August 1st. Then that way the board could review them at the work session on August 4th. If we weren't able to get 2 applicants, we could also push that back to then meet our September deadline for policy. So that would be our recommendation.
If you remember, that's exactly what we did last year.
Yes.
And we actually did push it back,
We
right?
did.
And so, but yeah, that goes in line with what we started this year, so.
Any comments from the board on that?
Do we know if the people that, whose terms are going to reapply?
I'm hopeful. We'll send them an application. I'll give them both a call. So.
Any other questions?
So we're in consensus to open that until August 1st. I got it again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll then move on to item number 5, OSBA board training and other things. The OSBA board training will be on Thursday. Yes.
Sorry, I just don't want to fire start.
I was on Firewatch all night. I think I'm qualified. I can come up with this one. So that's-
I just saw sparks, so I was like,
It must have sparked itself out.
The spark, I could have ran out.
Yeah, it's just like,
Okay, go, continue, I will do it. I will watch.
You'll take care of it, Brian?
Maybe not. Continue with your meeting, I'm fine.
Okay. OSBA board training with Kristen Miles will be on Thursday at 6 o'clock. The last time I communicated with Kristen, she's going to discuss board roles and responsibilities and how the board can better or continue to work well together, and we do work well together, and how the board can work with the superintendent in pushing our strategic priorities forward. So she's going to do this in an hour or very close to an hour.
is it online or can it be in here?
It is online.
So you'll send us a link, so we just have to.
Yes, I will be in here. I know Mrs. Warnock will be in here as well, and so you can attend either way. So,
But we
This
will get
Thursday.
a link.
yes,
Yes.
this Thursday. Yep.
That we just have to press on.
That's all you gotta do. You gotta press on it. Well, and if you're at Thundering Days, bring your snow cone over and you can watch it with us for a little bit. So it'll be, yeah, I mean, no more than an hour and hopefully be very beneficial. So,
And just a couple more items. I would like to introduce our new online principal,
yes.
Matt. And have you met all the board members?
Not everyone, but.
Okay, Jasmine Ramirez, Susie Ramos, Pat Morinaga, Nick Hartley, newly elected. He doesn't know what he's in for. Dustin Martinson and Donnie Ballou. And I think you know everyone else.
Yes.
Right? So how is the new position coming along?
It's good. Just building that relationship with Open Ed, trying to build some more consistency across the board. But it's a work in progress, and I'm excited to be on the team. I grew up in Ontario and recently was in Medford, and so I'm excited to be back home and work.
Okay, and your previous experience, have you,
Yeah, I was a math teacher for 8 years at Ontario, and I also did my internship there for my after I got my administration degree, and then took an assistant principal and athletic director opening in Medford, where I helped open a new school and an athletic program. And I also was like your SSPS guy at the middle school as well. So, and then after 2 years there, getting the experience I needed, I was looking forward to coming back home and was able to land here. So, very excited.
welcome home.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I love him. I said, hey, we have a study session tonight. He said, do I have to be there? I said, no, the board meetings you do, study session on tap. He's like, I will absolutely do that. I love that. So,
You're making a good impression. Okay, and then we have another item. Susie, would you like to touch on that? The potential board picnic.
Well, we had talked about on the board barbecue, I just want to ask her if we were still going to do it. Dustin?
Dustin's house, a board get together. It would actually be with families and things like that. It would be just a, it's not a meeting, obviously.
I'm sure we could come up with some water balloon fights as spouses versus board member or something like that.
Or
Oh, you guys.
Now, Susie.
Correct.
I will be sick that day.
That's just a suggestion. We have those big squirt.
So anyway, are you
Are we-
at all interested in doing a sort of a board family, get to know each other? And Dustin's going, what?
Yeah.
Dustin, have
You said food,
talked to your
right?
wife?
Oh, yeah, there's food.
Yeah, it'd be fine.
I'm sold.
She would be fine with it.
Are you
Yeah.
sure?
You better not tell her the day
Should-
before.
She would say, did you really? Okay.
You can say, work at the house, everybody's gonna bring the food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jasmine's on food.
Yeah.
You just heard it. If you replace Jasmine's on food.
We heard you're making sloppy joes.
Yeah.
I know.
I can make whatever Mexican food you like, but not,
But you never gave me my breakfast burritos, so.
ask Nick. Ask somebody else here.
You don't have sloppy joes at a barbecue.
We got to get some.
Yes. So did you guys want to maybe do something in July or August, closer to the start of school, or what are you
Yeah,
thinking?
school starts on what, the 18th?
Yes, staff comes back on the 11th, new teacher orientation on the 8th, admin retreats on the 6th. Anyway, I mean, there's like 1 week left. Auditors on site next week. Anyway,
Oh,
so.
that's right. You forgot to remind us that the auditors are going to be here next week.
I was gonna tell you at Monday's meeting, I get to see you on Monday.
Yes.
So do I get the
But you
first
told
one?
us before and I had it marked down in my
I apologize, sorry. The auditors will be
Okay.
here, in this room.
The first
for
couple weeks of August.
Next week.
Friday.
Maybe.
Friday? I'm gonna do like August 1st.
August 1st is
That's a
Friday.
Monday, oh, that's September.
Yeah, August 1st is Friday.
Fair.
Yeah.
Oh, is that
Is
fair
that
week?
fair week?
Okay, so then
Oh, there's two.
the 8th?
We can meet at the fair.
We can.
Oh, we
I
can't
tell
do
you
the
the
8th.
It's
The
her
8th, we're
birthday.
going to be gone for.
And I was gone last year and I paid for it.
Yeah, we're busy.
Yeah, school days are
We're doing
think you're
we're gonna do
best-
it August 4th in lieu of this meeting.
I can't do Monday or Tuesday.
We can actually, we can do that August 4th in the middle of this meeting. What do you think? August 4th?
Monday, August 4th.
Right,
No.
so Juan can't come, but that's.
I would rather do it Friday.
Okay.
What does happen?
And I can go whatever you want,
Friday.
but Friday.
Wednesday or Thursday?
say that?
Always.
Yep, whatever we want, but on Friday.
Whatever you want, but Friday.
August 1st.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday?
August 1st
No,
doesn't
because
work.
Oh, okay, that's fair, that's right, fair.
It's not fair. The 25th of July, now we're pushing back.
No, how about the 15th?
We can do 15th
July?
of August.
August.
Oh.
That's a Friday?
Yep, that's one
Yes.
right before school, and get everyone together.
I have no idea what my schedule's like, so.
Did the end of the year barbecue, now you go.
Text your wife.
The hard thing on the 15th is the weekend right before. I don't know if we're gonna get away for the weekend right before the kids go back to school.
Yeah.
I mean.
You don't have to be there for it, we just need your house.
And that's actually better. The girls are out back. They're pretty self-explanatory.
I've been there.
Yeah, Nick again.
Jeremy would probably have 15th.
He definitely would.
Can we adjourn and then we can,
Bye,
Oh,
see
that's
ya.
probably a good idea.
can you adjourn for me? Pat?
Sure.
Okay,